Democrats must recognize that Zoran Mamdani is the future of the party. Unfortunately, it's the Republican Party. Get it? But before the whole left side of the country catches socialism fever, let's listen to the other big winner in last Tuesday's election, Virginia Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger, who, before the 24 election, said things like, if the party didn't shift to the center, we will get torn apart. And we need to never use the word socialist or socialism ever again. Well, she was right, but they didn't listen. Typical, am I right, ladies?
Bill Maher is back to torching his own party, and this time his target is New York's new mayor, Zoran Mamdani. Mamdani is the DNC's newest golden boy, and most liberals seem completely enchanted by him, except Maher. Maher's verdict on Zoran's political future is sharp, brutal, and impossible to ignore. So hit that subscribe button and let's jump straight into it.
At least the party has a clear choice here, very clear. One wing is saying don't ever use the word socialist again, and one is saying,
I am a democratic socialist.
Clear, huh? So how do we decide who's right? Well, it turns out we don't really have to flip a coin. We have the evidence. In 2024, 13 Democrats won. In districts, Trump also won. All moderates. This isn't rocket science. All the left-leaning think tanks have done autopsies on 2024, and they all came up with the same message. Move to the center. Even the New York Times, which did so much to promote woke politics, now says the partisans are wrong, moving to the center.
According to Maher, the Democratic Party now looks split straight down the middle. On one side is a growing group openly flirting with socialism, convinced the party should fully embrace the label and everything that comes with it. On the other side are Democrats who won't even say the word because they know how toxic it sounds to everyday voters outside activist circles. Maher firmly stands with this second group. He warns that socialism may sound exciting at rallies and on college campuses, but it becomes electoral poison the moment it reaches working-class voters in swing districts. History shows it scares off moderates, independents, and even loyal Democrats who just want stability. His message is blunt. If the party keeps chasing ideology over practicality, it risks handing elections straight to Republicans.
The problem is, Gen Z thinks socialism's wired and capitalism's tired and billionaires are what's for dinner. And who can blame them? If you're 30 and still sharing a bathroom with roommates, capitalism isn't working for you. People will reject any economic system where there's strange hair on the soap. No one wants to be approaching middle age and still writing their name on food before they put it in the fridge. So they're quiet quitting capitalism and texting socialism that they're down to Thing is, socialism will because socialism, to put it simply, just doesn't work and has never worked. Like Kevin.
Maher then explains why socialism keeps pulling people in, and in his view the reason is simple. Many of its supporters are burned out, frustrated, and disappointed with how their lives turned out. Socialism starts to feel like a rescue plan, a last chance to escape financial stress and career failure. Maher doesn't mock that frustration. He understands it, but he draws a firm line between empathy and fantasy. Socialism, he says, sells comfort, not solutions. It promises security without dealing with incentives, human nature, or power. His warning is direct. Socialism has never worked anywhere at any scale, and there's no reason to believe it suddenly will now. New slogans do not change old outcomes.
Oh, the kids think that stuff that happened before their appearance on the planet didn't really happen, but it did. We've run this experiment many times, and the results are always obvious. Here's capitalist South Korea at night from space. Here's socialist North Korea. Yeah. In 1990, Venezuela was wealthier than Poland. But then Poland, finally free of Soviet-style economics, went all in on capitalism. And now their economy is as big as Japan. And people there have high wages, low inflation, cars, vacations, homes. Meanwhile, Venezuela traded capitalism for Hugo Chavez's Socialism for the 21st Century, which turned out to be like socialism in the last century, or any century, a mess.
Maher points out how tempting it is to believe that this time will be different. That with better intentions and smarter people, we can fix what failed before. Sometimes progress does happen that way, but not when the core ideas never change. His argument is that socialism hasn't evolved at all where it matters. The language may sound kinder and the branding may look modern, but the system still relies on centralized control and distorted incentives. Those forces always lead to the same problems. Maher says believing history no longer applies is not optimism, it's denial. When warning signs keep flashing and people ignore them, they are not avoiding risk. They are inviting it.
Turned one of Latin America's richest countries into one of its poorest. Low wages, high inflation, shortages, outages, 8 million people fleeing. If you think New York can somehow reinvent this wheel, you're in for a rude awakening. Zoran can't make your wishes come true. You're thinking of Zoltan.
Maher predicts that if Mandani pushes New York towards socialism, the results will be painfully familiar. Businesses will pull back or leave. Investment will slow. Jobs will disappear. Infrastructure already under strain will keep falling apart. Electricity becomes unreliable. Roads crumble. Public services cost more and deliver less. To fill the gaps, taxes rise higher and higher, squeezing families and small businesses. Maher says this is not fear-mongering. It is a pattern seen again and again. New York is already expensive and fragile. Adding ideology to dysfunction could turn serious problems into permanent damage. Once decline begins, stopping it becomes much harder.
Democratic socialism is like a dating profile. Things look great until you meet up in the real world. For example, Bernie Sanders, his big thing was always bringing single-payer health care to our country of 340 million. But when liberal, tie-dyed Vermont tried to do it for a population of 626,000, it collapsed like that poor f*** in the Oval Office last week. Bernie, AOC, Mandani are not Democrats. They'll be the first to tell you that. They're democratic socialists, and that's a very different thing, and I don't think people know that yet.
Maher points to health care as a textbook example, using Bernie Sanders' single-payer proposal. The pitch was simple. Remove private insurers, centralize payments, and health care becomes cheaper and more efficient. Maher says the reality tells a different story. Instead of cutting bureaucracy, single-payer systems often replace many smaller systems with one massive government machine. Costs rise. Wait times grow. Choices shrink. Politics replaces efficiency. His critique is practical, not partisan. Good intentions do not cancel economic reality. When government becomes the only payer, rationing follows, innovation slows, and accountability fades. What was sold as a cure becomes another warning.
I don't think people realize we already have a lot of socialism. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, unemployment insurance, food stamps, veterans benefits, Pell Grants, COVID-era payments, farm subsidies, disability payments, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, corporate bailouts, and the jobs program that is building weapons the Pentagon doesn't even want. All that is socialism, much of it appropriate to soften the edges of capitalism, but the DSA are radicals about this concept, and radical economic policy is always ineluctably married to radical social policy. Their platform, for example, calls for completely open borders. They're for what Biden was doing, but more.
Here Maher shifts into teacher mode. He reminds people that America already has limited forms of socialism built into the system. Social Security, Medicare, unemployment benefits, and public schools all exist to soften the hardest edges of capitalism. These programs are safety nets, not replacements for the entire economy. Maher says there is a huge difference between reforming capitalism and abandoning it. Capitalism, for all its flaws, still drives innovation and growth. Socialism promises fairness, but often delivers stagnation and control. For Maher, reform is sensible. Revolution is reckless.
We're petrified of COVID, masking 2-year-olds who never would have died from it and keeping schools closed for far too long. They're definitely afraid of their kids, who from time immemorial have always come up with bad ideas. They're kids. Thinking up stupid shit is what they do. But parents used to tell them, that's ridiculous. The world doesn't work that way. Not today's parents. They say, you're right, honey. Gender is just a social construct. Please, sometimes your mother and I forget which one of us has.
Maher then turns his fire on the Democratic Party itself. He says fear now runs the party. Fear of saying the wrong thing. Fear of offending the wrong group. Fear of confronting bad behavior even from their own side. In his view, Democrats have become so cautious they can barely discipline anyone anymore. Instead of leading, they tiptoe. They pander to a loud fringe while ignoring what most voters care about: safety, affordability, stability, and common sense. Maher warns that leadership requires courage, not applause from social media. Governing out of fear is a losing strategy.
I don't know if we're still banning TikTok. That was before we changed the rule in America to Trump decides what's a law. But I know it wouldn't even be an issue if parents would sack up and tell their kids to get off the phone. Democrats are still afraid of the mean girls who police their far-out fringe. Massachusetts Congressman Seth Moulton had a perfect score on LGBTQ issues from the Human Rights Campaign. But when he said, "I have 2 little girls. I don't want them getting run over on a playing field by a male or formerly male athlete," his own campaign manager.
That fear, Maher says, explains why so many Democrats stay silent about woke ideology. Not because they agree with it, but because they are terrified of online mobs. One wrong phrase and the pile-on begins. Labels fly. Apologies are demanded. Careers can stall overnight. So they play it safe. They repeat approved lines and hope the spotlight never turns on them. Maher calls this cowardice disguised as unity. Silence may feel safe, but when the crowd is wrong, silence becomes complicity. Fear-driven politics does not lead to progress. It leads to collapse.
Imagine that, a congressman merely stands up for the liberal principle, the one we do still call Title IX, that women get an equal shot in sports, and now it gets you labeled a Nazi. The reason Gretchen Whitmer looked like a toddler playing peekaboo in the Oval Office is she's afraid of the Liz Bratts of the world and the 12 social justice warriors on the internet and what they might tweet to their 7 followers. Alyssa Slotkin calls her party weak and woke. She's right. People vote on instinct. They can smell fear a swing state away, and they'd rather have strong and wrong.
In the end, Maher delivers a warning to his own party. He sees Democrats divided between ideology and realism, between socialism and common sense, between courage and fear. Socialism, no matter how attractive it sounds, has never worked and never will. The limited social programs America has are safety nets inside capitalism, not substitutes for it. And beyond ideology, Maher says the party's culture of fear is just as dangerous. Afraid of activists, afraid of mobs, afraid to lead. His message is simple. Without backbone, pragmatism, and respect for history, the Democrats risk losing elections and losing themselves. And that's where we wrap up today's video. If you enjoyed it, hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.